on, I feel kind of scared. Like, what's happening in the world around me? I have no idea. I'm completely immersed in this space. So the reason we want to use AR, and specifically on mobile, is so that we can not block out the real world, but simply augment it and add to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. One of the biggest barriers at the moment is that not everyone has a VR headset to enter completely digital worlds, and everyone has mobile phones with AR capability. So this is I think a great move. Um, I I believe that in a few years' time, this will change when
Mhm.
I think our main interface to the internet might not be our slate phone or
Mhm.
smartphone, but maybe glasses. Is this something you're expecting to see?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They talk about technology curves quite a bit, and how form factors that we use rise in user base and then eventually fall. And there is quite a bit of literature out there that says that the smartphone is actually nearing the end of its technology curve. And the replacement, if you think about what's personally, when I look at technology, and I'd love to know what you think as well, but personally, when I look at technology, I think about why someone would want to adopt it as opposed to the current status quo. And regardless of what it is, it always comes down to convenience. Streaming music players like Spotify is more convenient than buying a CD, for example. The phone was more convenient than picking up a tethered landline because you can move around the world. The replacement to the smartphone will have to be more convenient than having the world live inside of the palm of your hand. And what's more convenient than having the world inside the palm of your hand will be having the world inside of your glasses at all times. And so that future is coming. I think we all know that at one point there will be a product out there that allows us to have the same level of functionality on a cell phone that's in our glasses. It's not there yet, and we're all kind of waiting for the big tech players to release their game-changing technology. But while we wait, I think that it's important for companies like ourselves and for anyone else who's in the immersive space to plant their flags inside of the tech that's currently existing.
Yeah,
So we've,
sorry, go on.
yeah, no, I was almost done. But the way that we're looking at that is that we're partnering with a company called Nreal, which is a consumer AR glasses company based out of China. They're very well established. They've raised about $60 million from Alibaba to build a consumer AR product, and we're integrating our zone worlds into their consumer AR glasses. And the experience will be exploration. It will be visual, but in the future, we hope to build with them into something that's more robust.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've recently tried the new HTC glasses that are linked
Yeah,
to your phone, and they look much better. They look like
yeah,
sunglasses almost, and I believe that Apple will release blended reality glasses at some point
yes,
that will, I guess, take over as the new interface to the internet, and then they
yeah,
become less scary because you have the option of having augmented reality,
yeah,
virtual reality, blended reality. So in that context, your vision fits into this really well, right?
yeah, correct. It will be, yeah. I think when you look at Apple or what they'll be doing hardware really well. That's for sure. They're going to focus on the hardware. They're going to make sure that it works really well. What they're going to struggle to do is to find a use case. That's when that's when glasses will take hold. They're going to look towards who has a problem that these glasses can fix. So some people say it's going to be for the visually impaired. For example, people who need glasses or really have trouble seeing certain elements in their lives. Maybe not just a pair of regular glasses can help them, but maybe they also need information overlay. That could be an example. But I think where we fit in as a technology company is we can be a content provider and an experience provider to these companies. So we can provide the worlds, we can provide the social experiences, the music activations, and Apple could look to us as a partner in that respect.
So how do you see Zone competing with the likes of Meta's Horizon, where they're building a virtual social media a
Hmm.
world, and places like Sandbox or
Hmm.
Decentraland or Roblox that or Fortnite to some extent that are
Hmm.
already experimenting and using this sort of technology?
Well, there were quite a few I think in there to unpack. So maybe I'll start with Meta first, and maybe some of the larger social media platforms. Meta, TikTok, Instagram, those are the same company, but they will always, because of how those companies are structured, be centralized. They will always focus on building their world to compete with other worlds. It is in their DNA. What we are doing is taking a different approach. We are building with a decentralized focus in mind. So for us, our worlds do not compete with them. We simply work alongside them. And how that works or looks practically is that inside of each zone, our vision is to not only house NFTs, digital collectibles, and products that we make, but also products that other companies make. So, what if you were exploring your zone and you saw the latest Fortnite skin displayed proudly by someone who owns that, or the latest NBA Top Shop, or the latest NFT from your favorite artist? We want to be inclusive and open and focus on decentralization rather than a centralized format that some of the bigger companies are pursuing. In the other vein, looking at Sandbox, Decentraland, for example, Sandbox and Decentraland are absolutely incredible platforms. They have a user base, they've had success selling land, they have music activations, but what they don't have is a mobile interface. And again, I think it comes down to how you're going to capture millions and millions of users into your platform. If I'm on the bus, or again, I always go back to this example, if I'm walking down the street, it's unlikely that I will open my computer and enter into this metaverse. It's more likely that I'll do so through my phone, and that's why we've chosen mobile. There was a couple other companies in there, Bernard, but I can't recall which ones that you brought up.
Roblox, Fortnite.
Correct, yeah. So Roblox and Fortnite, I'd say, would be a blend of the two. So centralized formats, but again, on a form factor that doesn't allow for mass adoption across mobile devices.
So for anyone who has never heard of Zone, then this is a digital platform, a digital world basically that is organized into different parts, right? Do you want to
Mhm.
explain how that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two main parts of our platform. There is what we call personal zones, and then there are community zones. Personal zones are the next iteration or evolution of a profile page. They are places of identity. They are places which each of our creators own and can modify. They are places which you can visit and invite people in a very safe and personal environment. And that's actually what you see behind me is a personal zone. The community zones are much larger. They are designed to host events, activations, community meetups, and performances. The community zones are where we see our initial user base coming to the platform to interact in. This is part of what we're working on in the music industry, for example. The community zones are built with music in mind because what we've seen is that in order to incentivize new users to come to a platform, oftentimes the best way to do that is to engage with an artist or musician who has a very engaged fan base. We've seen this with Snoop Dogg, we've seen this with Travis Scott, we've seen this with artists who have experimented in Web3 and have effectively brought their fan bases over. So in our case, we've signed with a major label partnership who will help us create music activations inside Zone, inside of community zones, in order to bring users over to our platform.
So how is your user growth going at the moment?
We're currently in prototype mode, and we have soft launched within our NFT community. So at the moment, we have about 20,000 people who are in our community, and we've gated access to our prototype only to those who have purchased or minted one of our NFTs. And to explain a little bit more about this, our NFTs are the personal zones that you see behind me. Each one of them is unique. We've created 10,000 different versions of these. And to date, we've only released a handful of them to a small group of users so that we can begin testing the platform. So at the moment, we have roughly 1,000 people using Zone, exploring and giving us feedback on how to grow it effectively.
So give me your vision of what these personal 3D spaces might look like. So that you said that they will replace what we have as user profiles today on
Mhm.
Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. What will be put in them? And you touched on the fact that those zones are NFTs, your personal spaces are NFTs. But I guess
Mhm.
NFTs have a much wider role to play in
Mhm.
featuring other digital items in your zone, right? So
That's correct.
describe what you envisage this to look like in the future.
Absolutely. So I think if we went far enough in the future, which is the ultimate vision, you would put on a pair of AR glasses, and the world around you would evolve into your personal zone. So you'd be in any environment that you're in, any world, any place in the world that you are, and you put on AR glasses, and you're immediately sent into this beautiful 3D world that is yours and yours alone. Inside of that world, again, you can and should be able to feature all of the things that mattered to you, just as we did in our childhood bedrooms. So in an ideal world, we would have gaming integrated. So we'd have Fortnite skins, we'd have popular items and collectibles from other web-based and browser-based and console-based games. We'd have NFTs, which is a no-brainer. I think NFTs are the gateway to the metaverse and must be included. We would also have proof of attendance of immersive events. So it's really important for people to know that you've attended a specific event, you've attended a specific community, and to have some type of visual representation of that event. On the usability side, I think what we're working towards in the vision is to have these places, these zones, not only as places of display and showcase, but also as active spaces that you can use to socialize with others. So imagine having 5 to 10 of your closest friends exploring as avatars and interacting with social features like chat and voice inside of each person's zone.
Very good. And then you touched on NFT. So do you want to explain the role of NFTs in all of this and where you see this going in the future? And
Absolutely.
maybe to start with, explain where you see NFTs today. So maybe a
Yeah,
basic explanation of what they are and where they might be going.
sure. So an NFT today, well, not today, but an NFT is a non-fungible token. And so the easiest way that I can explain an NFT in something in a way that my parents might understand is that it unlocks a market for creators that would not otherwise be available without this technology. The way that it does that is by introducing scarcity into a digital environment for goods and digital assets that wouldn't otherwise be scarce. So for example, if you go on Google Images and you search up and you surf search surfboard and you find a picture of a surfboard, you can right click and copy that image of a surfboard to your desktop, and you effectively own that image. That's the world we've grown up in. That's what we all understand from the internet, and that's how we've been conditioned. But in reality, the same way that you can have a limited edition supply of physical sneakers, you should be able to have a limited edition supply of digital goods. And before NFT technology, we weren't able to do that. We weren't able to prove that a digital good was scarce. What an NFT does is it attaches a token that is minted on the blockchain and stored on one of several networks that is currently out there in the market. Networks being Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, Matic. Regardless of the network, the token is irrefutably unique. And that's made unique and possible by blockchain technology. What we're using today is we're attaching NFT tokens to digital artwork as a way of making them scarce and unique. Creators who build these pieces of artwork, or really anything, can attach an NFT to it. And in doing so, they create a one-of-one version of that piece of digital art. They can then sell it for far more money and compensation than they would be able to in a normal environment or in a normal setting. The second part of your question, I believe, was where is it going, or how does it evolve?
Yeah.
Sure. So if we think about this and we project into the future a little bit, what NFTs do is they give power back to the creators of the original piece of artwork. So an NFT in itself is proving scarcity. But if we have an entire network of NFTs, we can enable independent creators to build artwork, to unlock a market, and then to earn off of those creations in ways that they wouldn't have been able to before. So what NFTs do is they really are creating an entire market, but a market that will not be taken or interfered with by large corporations or middlemen. We're creating a value chain between a creator and the end user that will be won't be interrupted ever in the future.
Yeah, this is the promise of this is super fascinating.
Mhm.
What do you think are the current challenges when it comes to the technology? Because there are lots of different competing blockchains out there. There are obviously lots of competing metaverse platforms out there.
Mhm.
Um, what challenges do we need to overcome to really make this mainstream?
Usability, user interfaces. It's it all of the I mean, not all, but most of the platforms out there that have been built for Web 3.0 have led with blockchain functionality first. They make it a central piece of their platform. And oftentimes they gate access to their platform with that technology. For all but the 1% of us out there that are in this market, that understand it, that use it, gating access to a platform with a piece of technology that's very difficult to understand is not a winning solution. You have to open it and make it easy for people to use, because that's what we're used to. We're used to going to an app store and downloading an app and being up and running in a matter of 15 seconds. And if we don't do that, our attention spans are goldfish level. We will just delete the application and never use it again. So the challenge right now is that this market was unlocked last year. It grew, it blew up because of the way that the world was shaping up. People entered this market and attempted to make millions off of the off of the boom of cryptocurrencies last year. What they didn't do was build platforms that had users in mind first. And so now what we're seeing is people step back and think, okay, now that maybe the market's cooled off a little bit, how can we actually build platforms that will stand the test of time, and business models that will be effective towards onboarding many more users into Web 3.0.
Very true. You mentioned earlier that music is an important component of your vision of what Zone might be like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go into this? Why do you think music is important? And is it just music events, or will music play a wider role in your personal zones as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think there's two components to that. The first is, I think what I mentioned before is that music has always and will always be a tool that people get excited about. It's something that is it evokes emotion, it evokes passion, it evokes people, it provokes people to do crazy things like downloading a new application or a new platform and entering inside of it. So I think on the one hand, music is important to Web 3.0 because it will help encourage people to come into this market, to drop what they're doing and to come see a performance for their favorite musician, because they might miss out if they don't. So on the one hand, I think music is incredibly important to bring people into this market. On the other hand, I think music is a core piece of our identity, just because of the same reasons. It evokes emotion, passion. It is a way people identify themselves. And so in our worlds, when you think about a zone being a place of identity, music is a natural component to that. So music to us comes in two shapes and sizes. On the one hand, it's events and performances so that we can bring people in. And on the other hand, it's maybe a streamed music player inside of the zone where you can pick your favorite track and use that to soundtrack your environment.
I recently saw an interesting bit of research that was suggesting that in the Web3 world, people will value ownership much more. So, for example, ownership of
Hmm.
music. That at the moment we have streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music, and people are happy just to subscribe to a streaming service and get whatever piece of music they want all the time. The research was suggesting that in the future this might change, that you want to own a piece of music and maybe showcase it in your digital world. Is this something
Hmm.
that you see happening?
I do. I think that the possibilities around combining NFTs and music are very exciting. So thinking about the creator who's who's building today, he's building artwork and using NFTs to monetize that artwork in ways they haven't before. The same can apply to any type of creative industry that struggles to create revenue from their pieces of art. And music is one of those industries. So the stream, for example, the amount that an artist gets paid off of a stream on Spotify is a fraction of a percent, or a fraction of a cent, excuse me. So it's no brainer that in order to increase their revenue, they're very interested in new types of technology. So, for example, owning owning the rights to your song and releasing it as an NFT in order to unlock far more revenue streams than you could by releasing it on a Spotify is something that we're starting to see happen much more. The
Mm.
other use case, I think, is that it's typically very expensive to record and release a record or a song. And so we're seeing a lot of artists who are turning to NFTs as a way of fractionalizing ownership in their recording. So, for example, I'm an artist. I can go to a community of people and say that for an investment of $15 or $20, you can have a fractional ownership in this record, and you will receive royalties off the stream of that record for life if you contribute to the development of this record in the initial phases.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So one of the concerns I have whenever I talk about Web3 technology is the environmental impact, because we are using
Hmm.
blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is super power hungry.
Hmm.
Um, and given that the biggest challenge we are facing as the world now is to make our world more sustainable and address things like climate change, what's your
Hmm.
view on that? Do you feel confident that this can be addressed in the future with new technology?
100%. This is a this is an incredibly new technology that's been introduced to the world. There is no doubt that this is problematic, that it is energy intensive, and that's only because people have not started using this at scale. What we're seeing happening behind the scenes, kind of in the market, is an entire movement towards reshaping how blockchain technology works in order to make it more energy efficient. So, for example, there's an event occurring on the Ethereum network later this summer called the Merge. which will um, which will create a separate mechanism for analyzing blockchain transactions, which is a much more effective energy usage than the current model. We also see a vast network of what they call side chains, which use, again, different ways of analyzing transactions, which are much more energy effective than the main networks that we've grown accustomed to and that are in the news. So yes, I think we're moving in that direction. The entire industry knows that this is an issue and must design solutions for it.
Very good. Finally, what are your hopes and predictions for the future? If you think about the future of social media in the
Mhm,
metaverse, the future of the metaverse,
mhm.
what do you see happening? Or what would you like to see happening?
I think what will happen is that as a society, uh, as we move forward, we will increasingly move towards a world where users of platforms, where individuals will have a larger say in the activities um, and actions of large organizations. So we will move towards a more decentralized society rather than something that is incredibly central, like a Meta or a TikTok. I think that going all the way towards decentralization, which is what some people believe in Web 3.0, will not work because I don't think that as humans we're ready to completely, forego authority and leadership. I think you have to have that in order to make decisions and to move forward. But I do think that we're going to go more down the road of independent creators having more power and control over the actions of a company.
Very good. Thank you so much, James, for your time today. That was fascinating. I could talk about this topic for forever, really. Um,
Yes.
And anyone who ever wants to re-listen to this conversation, head to my YouTube channel where you can find this as well as hundreds of other super exciting conversations about the future of business and technology. So